A woman is dying behind a quarantine window. The city walled off Elysian Boulevard and left the sick inside to die, and she is one of them, a silhouette in a lit window asking after a daughter her family took from her. All she wants is to see her daughter's face one last time before the petrification finishes closing over her eyes. So you go to City Hall to find the child, and what you bring back is a doll. She reaches out from the window and takes it from your hands. Her sight is too far gone to make out what she holds, so she does not take it for a doll. She takes it for her daughter, and she asks you how adorable her baby is.
Isn't my baby adorable?
The game offers you two answers. One reads, "She's a cute baby." The other, "That's a puppet." You do not have long to decide, so you lie. You tell her that her baby is adorable, that the broken doll in her hands is the daughter she has been waiting to hold, because the truth would give her nothing now but pain. And the moment the words leave you, your own mechanical heart appears at the top of the screen, stirring at the lie. There is a reading of Lies of P that everyone seems to reach. Lying is the road of becoming human. The puppet earns its humanity one deception at a time, and the game does seem to hand you that reading, springs and all. But look who the lies are for. A dying woman asking if she is still as beautiful as her portrait. A widower searching for his dead wife's wedding ring. A mother who will not see mourning. Each one holds a truth that would break the person hearing it and hands them a kinder world instead. Lies of P was never asking how a puppet becomes human. It has been asking something harder. What do we owe the people we lied to? The reading everyone reaches is not a careless one. Lying makes you human, and the game builds that idea piece by piece from the moment you arrive in the city. Krat made his servants out of puppets, and then the puppets turned on it. They call it the puppet frenzy. One override, and every doll built for some human convenience began killing the people it served. What the frenzy left standing, a petrification disease, is finishing, turning the survivors to stone and taking the senses before it takes the rest. The worst streets are walled off and quarantined with the sick still inside them. The woman at the window is behind one of those walls. The few who are left gather at Hotel Krat, the last safe room in a dead city. You reach that hotel, and the first thing it does is refuse you. A defense system speaks from the door and asks one question. Who are you? It offers two answers, human or puppet. Tell it the truth, say puppet, and the door turns you away. So you say human, and the door opens, and a message appears. Your springs are reacting. A trophy unlocks in the same moment, and the game tells you what to call what you just did. First, lie. A gate that admits beings by what they are, and you have walked through it by deciding what you would be. The choice was never real. Choose puppet as often as you like, the door only turns you away again, and nothing moves forward until you lie. The voice asking you to do exactly that belongs to a woman named Sophia. A lie should not register as an achievement. It registers as one because of the law it breaks. Krat binds every puppet to a covenant. 4 laws in order of weight. Obey your creator. Never harm a human. Protect the city and the people in it. And the 4th, the one the game has just caught you breaking, a puppet cannot lie. Read them in a row, and the last one is doing something the others are not. The first 3 are commands, things a puppet is told to do. The 4th is not a command at all. The others say how a puppet must behave. This one says what a puppet is, and what it says is that lying is not even possible for it. A rule can be broken. A definition is different. To break it is to stop being the thing it named. A puppet cannot lie, yet we have just watched one do exactly that. So what does that make P? So the game gives lying a grammar. Every real lie arrives the same way. 2 choices. the truth and the lie side by side, a timer already running out. And when you choose the lie, the game tells on you in the only language a story about Pinocchio could speak. Your springs react. The stargazer you rest at casts a long-nosed shadow. The loading screen grows a nose over 2 words, now lying. And every lie raises a stat you are not allowed to see. What you get instead is a message, and there are 4, each higher than the last, each printed over an image of your mechanical heart. Your springs are reacting. The ergo is whispering. You feel warmth. And at the top, your heart is pounding. Put it together and the reading writes itself. A puppet does the one thing a puppet cannot. It lies. And as the lying piles up, those messages climb toward a beating heart. The game even gives the thing it is measuring a name. It calls it humanity. Lying is the road to becoming human, and Lies of P seems to have built every system it owns to tell you so. It is a good reading. It is almost certainly the one you are meant to reach first. There is only one problem. Lies like P's have a ready name. Bad faith. The bad faith argument, made by someone who does not believe a line of it. The bad faith offer, extended by someone who means to renege. Bad faith is the name for dishonesty when it keeps a calm face. And look at what P actually does to climb that ladder. He tells a door he is human. He tells a dying woman a broken puppet is her child. Every rung toward that beating heart is bought with a deception aimed at someone who believed him. The phrase settles onto him without friction. It feels like a perfect fit. That easy fit is the trap because the phrase did not begin in common speech. It began in a book by Jean-Paul Sartre, where it names one exact thing. Open that book, and the reading everyone reaches comes apart. Being in Nothingness, published in 1943, the major work of Sartre, the French philosopher who made existentialism a movement. It is a long and difficult book about a single idea, what it means to be a being condemned to be free. The phrase the whole reading leans on lives in part 1, in a chapter called Bad Faith. And the first thing Sartre does there is take the lie away from it. He starts by pulling apart 2 things people tend to fuse. There is the ordinary lie, and there is bad faith, and they are not the same act. The ordinary lie has a shape everyone recognizes. The liar holds the truth and keeps it from someone else. It takes 2 people, a deceiver who knows and a deceived who does not. And Sartre has almost no quarrel with it. He calls it normal, even a backhanded homage to the truth. To steer someone around the truth, you have to possess it exactly. Bad faith is the reverse. In bad faith, there is no second person. The deceiver and the deceived are one consciousness, a single mind trying to keep a truth from itself, which is what makes it strange, because to hide the truth, you have to know where it is. Bad faith is a lie you tell yourself. Hold that against P. Every lie he tells points at someone who is not him. He tells a door he is human, and what he deceives is the machinery waiting behind it. He tells a dying woman the broken doll in her arms is her daughter. He tells a widower the puppet wife he married left a message saying she loved him back. Deceiver and deceived every time 2 different people. So by Sartre's own definition, P's lies are the thing bad faith is not. The word does not fit him. It names the exact opposite of what he does. That does not make bad faith rare, or leave the game with nothing to do with it. There is a cleaner case of it than anything in Krat, in another game built around a man and a lie. In Silent Hill 2, James Sunderland walks into a fog-drowned town, chasing a letter from a wife he believed died 3 years ago, after a long illness. What the town keeps forcing back to the surface is that he was the one who ended her life. He holds the illness story against everything, and you can hear the belief strain as he goes. Partway through, after another killing, he asks the wife he insists is years dead whether she really died back then, the way he has been telling himself. That is bad faith. The lie turned inward, needing to be propped up every few minutes or it caves. P's lies never need propping, they face the other way. So lying is not where P's bad faith lives. That does not make the game innocent of it. Bad faith is all over Krat. It is just not in the liar. Start with what a puppet is. Sartre's most famous formula came 2 years later in a 1945 lecture. Existence precedes essence. We exist first and make ourselves afterward. But he keeps one exception, and the exception is the manufactured thing. A paper knife has its essence first, its design and its use fixed in the maker's mind before the blade exists. A puppet is that object carried to the limit, built, scripted, stamped with a purpose at the workbench. Sartre has 2 words for these 2 ways of being. A thing, solid, finished, identical with itself, he calls being in itself. It simply is what it is. A person is the other kind, being for itself, never finished, always at a distance from itself, free to be more than any fact about it. Sartre calls such a being a freedom. In bad faith is a freedom trying to become a thing, to coincide with a fixed essence, to close the distance and just be what it is. His case study is a cafe waiter whose movement runs a little too precise. A man playing at being a waiter, working to be one the way a paper knife is a paper knife, and never managing it, because a person is never only a function. Krat skipped the performance. It did not ask his servants to play at being servants. It built one kind that genuinely was its function. No ceremony required, and then one override turned every function in the city homicidal. Of everyone in it, P is the single figure who starts doing what the waiter does, playing at something he is not. Now the part that sits badly because it turns the reading over. Sartre's strangest move in the chapter is to argue that sincerity is itself a form of bad faith. Picture the man who corners a friend and demands he admit what he is, say it plainly, own it as a settled fact. Sartre calls that man the champion of sincerity, and the demand is a trap. It asks a person to harden into a thing, and the friend who obeys, who says, yes, that is what I am, makes himself an object precisely to be rid of his own freedom, because once he has confessed what he is, nothing further is asked of him. His role is fixed, and from there, he only plays it out. Truth-telling on this account is not the clean and innocent floor. It can be its own way of hiding. The game sends that same champion after P 3 times, and each time the question underneath is the same. What are you? At the door, the defense system asks who you are, and the only answers are human and puppet. Later, on the 5th and final riddle, the question drops into a demand. Is Geppetto's creation a killer? Confess. In deep in Arch Abbey, it takes its purest form. The champion of sincerity with his own body strung up on a wall. The king of riddles, asking whether you are a puppet or a human being. Which one are you? And look what those honest answers earn. At the door, the truth will not even let you in. On the phone, the confession pays no humanity, and the denial is the answer that gets praised. At the wall, telling the king what you are pays nothing, and the lie pays humanity. Run that all the way out. Picture a P who answers every prompt with what he is, and who does not only speak as designed, but behaves as designed, never solving a riddle he could pass, never sitting through a record he could skip, never once moving as the for itself he is. That P reaches the last scene, Geppetto asks for his heart, and the option to refuse is not grayed out. It is simply not there. The heart is handed over, installed as a component in the father's project, and the puppet is left as parts. The discourse reads that locked ending as the game punishing honesty. It is not punishing it, it is finishing it. Sartre says the sincere man makes himself a thing to escape the weight of being free. But he also says the man never pulls it off, because nothing alive can coincide with itself. and the one who confesses at least keeps the credit for confessing. The game takes even that away. The avowal pays nothing, and then it shows you the success Sartre calls impossible, a freedom made fully into a thing, the in itself reached at last, the puppet the object it was always built to be and reached only as remains. Suppose instead a P who refuses Geppetto without ever telling a lie, but the refusal takes a different shape than it looks. He buys it by solving the riddles and hearing the records out, by doing the things a thing built to obey would never bother to do. Every piece of that refusal was paid for with the moment he stopped behaving like what he is. He is not saved by his honesty. He is saved by what he is not. The truthful P was never proof of some honest core. He is a freedom doing a careful impersonation of one. That impression was demanded of him, and Sartre hangs the one making the demand on the same hook as the one who gives into it. So look at who is asking. Geppetto built P to be Carlo, his dead son, and never stops asking the puppet to be that dead boy the way a paper knife is a paper knife. The grand covenant is that demand widened into law over a whole kind. 4 rules that tell a puppet not only how to behave, but what it is, with truthfulness set in at the bottom as a property of its nature, like a thing's inability to be other than what it is. And carved above the 4, hidden, there is a 5th the others were never shown. Law 0.
The creator's name is Geppetto. Giuseppe Geppetto.
So the supreme law, the one that makes a puppet obey, is not a fact about the world at all. It is one man's will written in to look like a fact. That is the exact move bad faith always makes, a freedom dressing itself as a fixed essence, and here Krat makes it at scale. It decrees that its servants simply are things, so it owes them nothing and never has to meet a single one of them as another freedom, and the demand holds to the end. Refuse the heart, and the last thing Geppetto says as he dies is that he knew it, that P is just a useless puppet. The essence insisted on with his dying breath, in the face of the very refusal that has just proved it false. So bad faith turns out to be everywhere in this game, everywhere except in the lies, which leaves the question Sartre raised at the top of the chapter and then walked away from. If the lie aimed at another person is not bad faith, if it is, even by his account, a normal and almost healthy exercise of freedom, then what is it instead, and what does it owe the person it is told to? He names the way out of bad faith exactly once, in a single footnote, and then refuses to follow it. This self-recovery we shall call authenticity, the description of which has no place here. He promised the full account in a book on ethics he would write later. He never finished it. The pages surfaced after he was dead. The ethics existentialism actually owed had arrived 4 years after the book we had been reading, in 1947, written by someone who had been beside him, and it did not come out under his name. Her name was Simone de Beauvoir. The book was The Ethics of Ambiguity, and at its center is one sentence. To will oneself free is also to will others free. Read it once and it sounds like a slogan. Read it after the game and it turns into an instruction. But before it can do anything for P, it has to survive a problem Sartre built into his own idea of freedom, and Beauvoir clears it by splitting one thing he had kept whole. For the Sartre of those years, freedom is absolute. The for itself is free in any situation, free even in chains, because freedom is the structure of consciousness itself, and nothing outside it can reach in and reduce it. It is a clean, embracing idea, and it has one blind spot. If freedom cannot be touched, then nothing done to a person can shrink it, and oppression becomes impossible to describe. The slave comes out as free as the master, the dying as free as the well. Beauvoir keeps Sartre's freedom and cuts it in two. There is the freedom you cannot lose, the bare fact that you are conscious and not a stone, what gets called ontological freedom. And there is the freedom you have to win and can be robbed of, the power to take up a future and actually make something of it, what gets called moral freedom. That second freedom comes in degrees. It can be starved by a situation. It can be lied into a shape by other people. It can be sealed off until there is almost nothing left to move in. Hold that against the disease-eating Krat. The petrification does not just kill. It takes the senses one by one, then the mind itself, and seals the sick behind walls no one will cross again. A person at the end of it is still a consciousness, by Sartre's measure, still perfectly free. By Beauvoir's, that freedom has been shut down to a lit window and a handful of hours, with no future left for any fact to open. On Sartre's account, a crushing truth is a contradiction, because no truth can crush a freedom nothing can touch. On Beauvoir's, a truth handed to someone with no future to take it up does not free them. It walls them in further. The fact becomes a bar they no longer have the strength to bend, and to the one who hears it, the truth teller turns jailer. A fact can land like an attack, which means that disclosure, the plain act of telling someone how things stand, stops being good by default and becomes something you have to weigh. Beauvoir builds the entire ethics out of that weighing, and she starts it with childhood. Glossing Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, she says our misfortune is to have been, each of us, a child first, set down in a world already furnished with values and rules we had no hand in making. A world that does not look like one arrangement among many, but like the way things simply are. The child lives inside that serious world and is allowed to play in it, but cannot yet see around it. Moral life begins later, at the adolescence when the given world first looks made and so remakeable. And the self that was handed its values starts choosing which ones to keep. The Grand Covenant is that adolescence outlawed. 4 laws stamped into every puppet at the bench, a serious world poured into a body and left to set. And the last of them disguised as a fact about what a puppet is. A puppet cannot lie, not a rule it is ordered to follow, but a trait it is built to embody, a value wearing the face of nature, the nursery with its exit bricked over before the child is ever assembled. And then at the door, a puppet finds the exit anyway. The first lie is not P's fall, it is his adolescence. The moment a value he was handed turns out to be a thing he can remake, which is the only place any freedom has ever begun. What falls out of all of this is a way of weighing the lie, a lens for reading Krat, and it has to be assembled with care, because Beauvoir never quite holds it up herself, and never turns it on a liar at a door. For her, to exist is to disclose being, to want the world brought into the light, and to assert your own freedom in the same motion, which makes a lie look at first like an offense against existence itself. The repair is to measure that disclosure against the person it lands on. A truth serves freedom when the one hearing it has a future the truth can open. Where the future is gone, where the hours are few and no fact will undo the loss, the truth opens nothing, and the kind lie becomes the act that keeps the other's last freedom in motion. Beauvoir was not even gentle with the book herself. Years later, she turned on it as too abstract, too idealistic. The criticism is fair, but it leaves the core standing. A freedom that has to aim at an open future and can only reach that future through other freedoms is the truest thing existentialism has ever managed to say about other people. Sartre meant to write that ethics and never could, and the freedom sitting beside his carried it past where his own gave out. The book's own claim, proven by the hand that finished it. Now carry that lens back to the window where we began. So take the truth this time. Tell her the thing in her hands is a doll, and watch the truth fail. She cannot take it in. Her sight is nearly gone, her mind not far behind, and the words land on her as an attack. So she does the one thing still available to her. She decides that you are the liar. She asks whether her own family put you up to it, and she warns you off the road you are on. A road, she says, leads to nothing but sadness. Beauvoir's lens turned on the window shows that the choice here was never lie against truth. The kind answer gives her a daughter for the hours she has left. The true answer gives her nothing she can hold because she has no future for the fact to open and no way left to receive it. The lie fills her ending. The truth glances off it. A truth serves a freedom with a future to take it up, and hers has narrowed to a lit window and a handful of hours. So the truth serves no one. The game pays for the answer it prefers. The kind lie earns a little more than the truth does. One extra record for the collection, and the record is named Feel. That sounds like a clean verdict, but the strongest case against it was written by someone who spent a career on exactly this question. Cicely Bach's Lying has a chapter on lying to the sick and dying, and it is unsparing. The protective lie, she argues, mostly protects the person telling it. It spares the speaker the hard conversation and calls the sparing mercy. It seals the dying inside an ending no one will discuss with them honestly, and it eats the trust that medicine and intimacy both run on, because every comforting lie makes the next reassurance worth a little less. Bach proposes a test. Imagine defending the practice out loud, in public, to reasonable people, and ask which lies would serve the justification. Bernard Williams sets the frame underneath it. Truthfulness has two virtues, accuracy and sincerity. What they protect is trust, which is reliance on another person exactly where they could deceive you and do not. Hold the woman at the window against that. Some of it falls away and some of it does not. There is no hard conversation being dodged because there is no conversation she can have. There is no decision the truth will let her make because there is nothing left to decide. The truth does not just hurt her, it fails to inform her. The scene clears Bach's bar in the cases that matter, but one charge sticks. The lie keeps her inside a fiction. She dies believing a broken doll is her daughter, and a reading the game leaves open is that her daughter has been gone a long time. The kindness and the deception are the same act. The lens does not dissolve that. It only insists the deception was the lesser harm. And the person best placed to say so is the one whose ethics this whole reading runs on. In 1963, in a Paris clinic, Beauvoir sat at her mother's deathbed. Her mother had broken a bone, and the doctors who examined her found the cancer that would kill her. They advised the family to keep it from her, as was common at the time, and so Beauvoir lied to her dying mother every day. She insisted it was something smaller, that recovery was coming, that there was time. In her notebook, the words for lie, liar, traitor surface and resurface. She is telling the same lie P tells at the window, and she knows exactly what she is doing. Her reason when she gives it could be one of two answers the game offers. Maman, she writes, did not want these intimate conversations. What her mother wanted at the end was not a final reckoning. It was young smiling faces at the bedside, and the lie was the price of providing them. She wrote a book about it afterward, and it never lets her off. The ambiguity at the center of this is the wound she chose, betraying her mother's trust in order to spare her. Against that wound, the next case looks, at first, like the lie's total vindication. Julian is a widower. His wife, Melody, was a maid puppet, married to him in secret, and she died in the fire that took Rosa Isabelle Street. P finds her wedding ring and brings it back to him, and Julian, holding it, asks the question the city forbids. Whoever heard of a human and a puppet falling in love? He is not asking whether it happened, but whether it is real, whether what he had was love or something he mistook for it. P can tell him the truth, that P has no idea, or P could tell him that Melody left a message, that she said she loved him, that P saw it. There was no message to see, so the kind answer is an act of faith in another freedom, asserted as fact to a grieving man because it would hold him up. Julian gives P the ring to keep and a gesture of mourning to use, the game handing over his tools of grief as thanks. and humanity for the lie. Julian is steadied by a sentence true to nothing P could see. The lie traffics in a real claim, and that claim, the seeing, stays false. Its worth is never its accuracy. Its worth is the sincere faith inside it. The game has more to say about that faith in a place P cannot read yet. Not long after, a moment proves Beauvoir's lens was never a preference for lying. A puppet named Polendina seeks P out. His ego has awakened, the lore's word for a puppet becoming a freedom. He has fallen in love with a dying woman named Antonia. He asks P almost exactly what Julian asked, whether a puppet can love a human at all. Here the kind answer is the true one. P shows him Julian's ring, proof that a human and a puppet married and loved. And the game pays humanity for that truth, the same currency it paid for the lie at Julian's door, the same object in two hands doing opposite things. What the game rewards both times is not the lie and not the truth. It is the answer that keeps the other's future open, whichever it is. Tenderness was the surface both cases shared. It was never the line that decided them. A second game makes the cut cleaner than this one can alone. NieR Automata runs on a protective lie. Its hero, the android 2B, is partnered with a younger unit named 9S, and she is hiding two things from him: that her real designation marks her as his executioner, and a truth about him that would break him if he ever held it. He keeps finding it out. She keeps killing him for it and letting him wake up new, carrying the knowledge and the grief by herself, because the lie is the only thing that lets him go on as someone who can still act. That is the protective lie in its purest and most ruinous form, and it is Beauvoir's register exactly, a freedom spent at enormous private cost to keep another freedom in motion. And the same game shows you the counterfeit wearing the same face. The organization both of them serve runs on deception too, an entire command structure that lies to its own soldiers and calls the lying their protection. The shapes are identical, a truth withheld, a person kept inside a kinder fiction, a justification that sounds like care. The difference is the only thing that ever mattered. 2B's lies serve 9S. The institution's lies serve the institution. The question was never whether a lie is gentle. It is whose freedom it is for. From this perspective, the lens looks secure, but there is one more pressure it has to take. The pressure that comes from inside Beauvoir herself. From her earliest ethical writing, she holds that you cannot do another person's freedom for them. Their good has to pass through their own choosing, which means what you owe them is an appeal, something they can take up or refuse, not a verdict you reach on their behalf. Charity that decides what another person can bear, that steers them toward the outcome you have already picked for them, is not generosity. It is a way of treating a for itself as an in itself, a freedom as a thing. The man who lives that way hands his own freedom over to a cause and then enforces it on everyone in reach. Beauvoir's serious man, and his cruelty and his tenderness come from the same place. Geppetto is the serious man, an entire city poured out for a son who is gone, and the kind lie weighed honestly shares an edge with him. Every one of P's lies decides, alone and in advance, what the person on the other side is strong enough to hear. The objection is real, but notice what the objection assumes. It assumes the lie was P's to choose, a decision P reached and then imposed, the kind of act you can be too gentle or too managing in performing. There is a way of seeing all of this that denies P ever stood at that distance, that says P was never at a remove deciding what to do for the person on the other side, but was already claimed by them the instant their face appeared, that this was never a choice P made about them at all. It was an answer they had already pulled out of P, and the philosopher who sees it that way thinks it cuts deeper than anything in Beauvoir. The first real decision the game hands P is gated twice over. It waits behind a request, and before the request, the work of hearing someone. The scene does not open on the choice, it opens on a sound.
Oh. Why won't she answer me? My baby.
P hears crying from behind the quarantine boards, and the crying is what draws P to the window. A hand comes through the gap, a silhouette settles behind it. Someone is reaching for P, and P is already answering before there is a face to see, answering a summons. What reaches through the gap is what Emmanuel Levinas spent his entire life describing. He called it the face, and he did not mean the features, not the visage you perceive. The face is expression, a bodily and verbal overture showing the irreducible uniqueness and vulnerability of the individual. The first word of the face is the "thou shalt not kill," a veto on your first impulse, the selfish one that would look away from the woman at the window and get on with the game, laid on you before you have chosen anything. That pull belongs to the player, not to P. You are the one who heard the crying and could not leave it there, the one the command moves to take the quest up and see it through. And it asks nothing about whether the person on the far side has earned it. You owe it. It does not owe you back. In Krat, the distinction is literal. A puppet's face is the thing Levinas says the face is not, a fixed visage with no one behind it. Then, in some of them, something arrives. The lore calls it an awakened ego, a machine that stops being an in itself, a thing, and becomes a for itself, a someone. That is the face in the sense Levinas means. The expression, the visage was missing, and the command comes with it. The city calls it a malfunction and hunts it. A someone emerging, the very thing that puts you under obligation, is in Krat a defect to be destroyed. That is the inversion Levinas spent his life answering, in a century that reduced the face from expression to a mere visage. Stand at any live prompt and look at the held frame, the second where the world stops, and the two answers wait. The reading so far puts the weight of that second on P's freedom. Levinas puts it on the person across the gap, and the game hands both readings the very same shot. Sartre calls that second vertigo. Not the fear of falling, but the dizziness of standing at an edge and understanding that nothing holds you back from it except your own freedom. No rule decides for you, no excuse waits to catch you, and the game stages it exactly that way. The timer is running. There is no pausing it to go find the right answer, and there is no right answer to find. The whole of the choice rests on a freedom that cannot be put down. Levinas reads the same pause the other way around. The weight in it is not your freedom, it is the person on the far side of it, already there, already waiting, already owed. For him, the encounter does not begin in your freedom and reach out toward the other. It begins in the other and calls your freedom into question. It is the other's face that gives the decision its gravity. Responsibility comes first. Freedom shows up already answerable to it. Same shot, opposite metaphysics, and the game refuses to break the tie. Using Levinas's lens instead of Beauvoir's, the question of who receives the prompts stops looking like an accident. The charged lies, the ones with a suffering face on the other end, keep going to people who cannot check the answer. And the game takes the checking away by a different route every time. The weeping woman is going blind. The disease has nearly finished her eyes, and what P puts in her hands is a doll her sight can no longer call a doll. She cannot test it. She can only take it. Belle never reaches the place where her truth is kept. The petrification disease bars her from Krat Central Station, where her partner Atkinson is dying, so his fate sits permanently out of her reach. And in the cell at Arch Abbey, the man who built P asks whether he was a good father, a question whose only honest witness is P's own heart. Bell is where you can watch the writers tracking this case by case. Atkinson writes his own kind lie and forges the proof for it, and Bell authenticates that letter by recognizing his writing. With the letter in P's hands, the lie that he fell in action against the puppet lands, and the game pays for it. Now take the letter away, kill Atkinson instead, walk in with nothing and try the lie on his own. Bell stops cold. She knows the man. She knows he would never have run, never have left his partner behind, and a lie with nothing under it cannot survive what she already knows. Short of a mind that could read the lie straight off P, this is the only time an addressee catches P in a lie, and it happens at the one lie P tells without evidence. The checking was never missing from this design. It was placed, however it got there. Present at one spot the lie comes cheap, absent everywhere the kind lie has to land. The truths confirm it from the other side, because for these faces, the truth cannot do the thing truth is for. Tell the weeping woman that the thing in her arms is a puppet, and she does not learn anything. She decides that you are lying. Tell Bell what Atkinson has really become, and she walks out to find the station he died in, and her body turns up in the same train. Honesty does not inform these people. It glances off them, or it kills them. That is the shape Levinas keeps pointing at, a bond that was never going to run on the other person checking the truth of what you tell them. This is not every lie in the game, and that selectivity is what makes it a pattern rather than a coincidence. P lies to a machine at a door, P lies to Vanini to bury a name, P lies twice to Alidoro for advantage. None of those have a suffering face waiting to be spared, and not one of them bothers to remove the checking. The lies that land on the faces who cannot check are the ones where telling the truth would only be refused, or would kill. The strategic lies have no such truth behind them, and they sit out in the open where the other person can test them. Only one machine in the city ever asks P a question, the door, and it asks to check him. Every other question comes from a face, and a face asks to be answered. The tells turn the same direction. The springs react at a lie, the long-nosed shadow the Hotel Krat stargazer casts, the loading screen growing a wooden nose over the words now lying. Early on, these read as the game winking at its source material, Pinocchio. Held against the people P deceives, they stop being a wink. Each one is evidence of the lie. Where Pinocchio's nose grew for anyone to see, these are shown to the player and to no one inside the story. The game assembles a complete case against P and hands all of it to the only audience that cannot act on it. You, the one watching from outside the world. There is only one witness inside the world, and the game is careful about what he is allowed to do. Gemini, the lantern, rides on P's belt through every one of these scenes. At the window, he sees exactly what P sees.
Oh no. No survivors here. What do we do? Just give her that baby puppet?
He names the dead end. He does not invent the lie, and he cannot answer for the weeping woman because her answer was never his to give. In the choice that weighs the most, he refuses even more plainly.
What will you do? You have to decide. You, not me.
The one conscious standing at the lies is a witness who can grieve the situation and change nothing in it. Responsibility for Levinas is infinite and unpaid. The instant you put a price on it, the instant you score it, you have turned it into an exchange. And exchange is the very totality the face was supposed to shatter. A game that scores your answer to a dying woman has, by that strict measure, sold the thing it was staging. Jacques Derrida makes the same move against Levinas himself. Put the holy other into language and you have already betrayed it. A hidden score that tallies your mercies is that betrayal at the scale of the game, but the game answers it. There is no humanity stat shown to the player. The score is a running tally the game keeps out of sight, and the only glimpses it ever gives you report where that tally stands, not what the last face was worth. The hardest face the game throws at you belongs to P's father, Geppetto, kidnapped and locked in a cell at Arch Abbey. This is the man who wrote the covenant that bound every other puppet against lying, who made P the single exception, whose work turned the city's servants into the thing that slaughtered it. He asks P to speak truthfully for his sake. He asks whether he was a trustworthy father, and the kind answer, the lie, is right there, the same as it was at the window. Levinas does not let P off the hook for being right about this man, because the face does not sort by who deserves it. The one who has earned mercy least still has a face, and the face still asks, and P can still answer it with mercy. What the answer measures is not Geppetto. The reply P gives to any face was never a verdict on the face. It is a reflection of P, of what P is willing to be in front of it. The game pays humanity back in humanity, so a kind word to the man who least deserves one says nothing about him at all. It says what P has become. This lens holds a great deal of weight. It holds nearly all of it. The face's first command, Levinas says, is that I not destroy it. Before anything else, it forbids me to kill the one in front of me. And there is only one face in this game that asks P for exactly that. Asks to be let go. Asks for the single mercy the first word forbids. And this is the face that summoned P in the first place. The voice that finds him dormant in the train car and wakes him. That calls him into Krat and sends him to the hotel before he has done a thing on his own. Levinas's lens, which carried every other prompt, arrives here and strains, because the summons and the command have pulled apart in P's hands. This reading holds up to a point, and the face it cannot hold is the one P has known since the beginning. There is one more face the lens cannot reach, for the opposite reason, and a strange one for a Pinocchio story. Everything Levinas says turns on a single claim, that the other exceeds my grasp, that I can never fully hold them inside what I think I know of them. There is one mind in Krat that cancels exactly that. A man who reads every interior he meets, who cannot be approached from behind a surface because there is no behind to him, nothing kept back, nothing his power has not already reached. No face can summon him, because a summons needs a distance his mind has already crossed. He is the one person in this city no one can lie to. Levinas's lens reached every other face. It cannot reach this one, and the reason it fails is the reason the man matters. Levinas needs the other to exceed your grasp, and this man has already crossed that distance on everyone he meets. So set Levinas down and pick up the question his existence forces. If the game scored lying, the man no one could lie to would be its saint. He is his final boss. Whatever the humanity P gathers across Krat has been counting, it was never lies. You can watch it happen without a single lie. P gains humanity from sitting with the phonograph record until the last groove, and from kneeling to pray before the one-winged angel near St. Frangelico. No one is deceived by a record played to ascend, no falsehoods live in a prayer to a statue. What rises in P at those moments is attention and feeling and the simple fact of having stopped to give a thing its due. Inside the game's speech, though, where the lies actually live, the thing being scored comes into focus, and it is not deception either. It is concern for how things are. To tell the weeping woman that the bundle in her arms is a cute baby, P first has to know that it is a broken doll. The kind lie is built against the truth, fitted to it and impossible without it. Harry Frankfurt makes that point the center of his work on lying. It is impossible for someone to lie unless he thinks he knows the truth. The liar keeps his eyes on the facts as carefully as the honest man does, because he has to aim. What the game rewards is that aim, which closes the crack players keep flagging in the reading where lying is what makes P human. Solving the king of riddles telephone puzzles raises P's humanity exactly as the kind lies do. If the currency were lying, that makes no sense. As concern for the truth, it is the same coin twice. Run forward toward an answer in the riddle, run backward in the kind lie to find the fact, and stand between it and someone who cannot survive it. And under all of it, one floor. Indifference pays nothing. There is one crack in that. Honest answers pay nothing. Though Frankfurt's truthful man tracks the facts as closely as his liar, a truthful answer from a Krat puppet evidences no one, because a Krat puppet was never able to answer any other way. To see what would make P's truth mean something, you have to look at what his first lie did to him. Law 4 of the Grand Covenant is that a puppet cannot lie. Set it beside a human law against lying, and they are nothing alike. Perjury is punishable because it can be done. The way every statute presupposes the act it forbids. Law 4 forbids nothing. It removes the ability, and a rule that cannot be broken is not a rule being kept. It is a property, like weight. A being with that property cannot do the one thing that turns speech into testimony. Richard Moran's account of telling makes the line exact. To tell someone something is to freely take responsibility for its truth, and that free assurance is what gives a hearer a reason to believe you rather than merely read you. A gauge can be accurate. It cannot be honest, because it could never have said anything else. The hotel's door is built on exactly this. Its defense system asks who you are and trusts the answer for one reason: that a puppet is physically unable to misreport. The lock is wired to Law 4, so when P stands at that intercom and says human, the machine cannot register what has happened. A puppet's speech has run for the first time through a self that could have sent out something else. The game never lets you author that awakening. It hands you the exercise instead in every chosen lie that follows, and it leaves the city something it had never held. Before that door, no puppet in Krat had ever given its word, because not one of them could have done otherwise. The talking servants, the awakened egos the lore keeps marking out, Romeo, Melody, the ones whose speech already sound like a person speaking, are not the exception to this. They are the proof of it. Speech becomes a word exactly where a someone shows up inside it. Which is what makes the man waiting at Arch Abbey the darkest answer the game has to all of it. On the table, minutes before the arena, Simon Manus leaves a written confession, so you read his story before you fight him. His father experiments on him and leaves him able to read minds. The first thing that power seems to deliver is his father's verdict. You're a failure too. He is abandoned, and his life takes a single shape, a world without lies, a world in his own words with only truth even if it is forced. To build it, he gives up being human and becomes a god. Compare him to P. P is a puppet bound to truth who becomes human the instant he gains the lie. Simon is a human drowning in truth who becomes a god by tearing the lie out of everyone else. The same axis walked in opposite directions, and on Frankfurt's terms, the distance between them is not honesty. Frankfurt's book is a defense of truth, and what it defends is what truth is for. The trust in the standing between persons that only truth can carry. Forced truth keeps none of that. It does not leave persons who can be trusted. It leaves objects that can be inspected. Simon does not love truth. He loves the inspection, the certainty that no one can ever again keep a thing from him. And the confession knows what it cost him. There is one person whose presence quiets the reading and gives him peace. Sophia. And the bond he treasures above every other is the one that feels the most like not having the power at all. The man who made certain no one could ever lie to him spends his life starving for the one thing a lie can be: a mercy. So the game hands him one last question, and it has the cruelest kindness in it. Defeated and dying, Simon asks what P did with Sophia. There are two answers. The true one is that she is gone either way, that P gave her peace. The other is that P set her free, liberated her from Arch Abbey, that she is out there somewhere, alive. She is not. In the second answer, the lie that would let a dying man believe the person he loved outlived him is the one the game rewards with humanity. Of course it is. It is concern run backward one final time, a crushing fact located and held away from the one it would crush. But Simon is the single face in Krat that no kindness can reach. Tell him she is free and he reads straight through it. The mind that cannot be fooled proving itself in its last words. Tell him the truth instead, that P gave her peace and he takes it. The man who reads every mind already knows the answer. His question is not aimed at the facts he can already see, but at P's heart. And what he receives is the first testimony of his life. The choice gates nothing else. Either way, the road runs on to Geppetto. But one more reader of minds is still alive in this city, freed and waiting on a bridge. And his first free act is about to open the scene that pays for all of it. Test subject 826 is a captive of the alchemist, kept as a memory-reading tool. After Laxasia's defeat, he uses the opportunity to escape and act on his own freedom, going sightseeing at Rosa Isabel Street. There, he finds writing on the back of a made puppet, and even with his ability to confirm it, he can hardly believe she wrote it. He confirms it anyway and sends P to look. P finds the writing where P had found the wedding ring on Julian's puppet wife, Melody. Her body has slumped aside, and on the wall it was previously covering is a message she left for the man she loved. Some who have played the game say the message on the wall proves the lie was never really a lie, but P could not have seen it. When P claimed to Julian to have seen her message, the writing was still hidden behind her body, and the game had already paid P for the lie in humanity. The wall does not make the lie true. A lie takes someone who thinks he knows the truth, and P had never seen the writing. What the wall holds instead is Melody's love, real and written and undelivered. Something P never read and only wagered was there. The lie was an appeal made on faith, and the wall is the world answering that the faith was kept. And the system that wrote it launders nothing else. The weeping woman's bundle is still a broken doll. Eugenie's gift is still the one Alidora refused. Geppetto is still no trustworthy father. The game discloses what one lie was made of and leaves every other lie as false as it was the moment it was told. Julian asks who ever heard of a human and a puppet in love. 826 asks it again in his own disbelief, and the message answers him. That is the appeal kept after the fact, and Beauvoir's lens handles it without strain because the future the lie protected stayed open long enough for the world to write into it. But the lens met its limit one face before this, and that face is still waiting. Sophia, the voice that woke P in the train car and called him into Krat. Levinas gives the face one first command, that you not destroy it, and hers asks to be destroyed. After Laxasia, P reaches her, not the projection that has stood in Hotel Krat all game, but her real body, an experimental subject the alchemists have held, worked on and kept breathing. And she asks,
Save me.
Oh, God.
It hurts so much. I want to be free. Please.
She does not ask for death by name. She asks to be free. And the game hands P a time choice that decides what the asking meant. Everything the existentialist reading has built toward says her future is the thing to read. and her future reads at 0. Here the lens, which has only ever weighed a kind act against the openness it buys, reaches a future with no openness in it at all. Beauvoir's ethics goes there too. In the first part of the Ethics of Ambiguity, on the most extreme situations, the ones where the future is radically blocked off, she allows that revolt keeps only one form, not a project, because a project needs a future to reach into, but the definitive rejection of the imposed situation, a freely chosen death, which she frames not as freedom giving up, but as the last move freedom has once every other has been taken. The same judgment of humanity that licensed the kind lie reads Sophia's future closed, and at 0 it does not fall silent, it points here. Beauvoir is not blessing despair. The same book condemns the death that flees existence, the nihilist will toward nothing. What it allows is the opposite, a clear will turned against the situation that has genuinely closed. The line between the two is the whole of the permission, and Sophia sits on the right side of it only because the game has built her there. Lucid straight through the reveal, her captivity literal, her future foreclosed by design. No page of Beauvoir's puts the knife in another's hand. The ethics licenses Sophia's death as Sophia's act. The step from there to P as the means her captivity denies her, is this reading's own construction built out of the appeal. And it is a reading the game pre-cleans in a way no real situation is clean. There is no hospice in Krat, no medicine, no waiting that is not more of the chair she is confined to. The fiction strips out every alternative so the choice can stand bare. And the case it makes does not carry to the room outside it, where none of those removals hold. It matters that the other option is not a rescue. Choose to let her live and there is no cutscene, no saving. Peace simply leaves her there, still suffering, and she dies soon after regardless. The game did not build killed against save. It built answer against walk away, and on that, the two lenses this reading has carried come apart. Both condemn the walk away. Letting her live is abandoning a destitute face in the middle of his plea, and Levinas and Beauvoir agree on that without effort. The split is not whether to answer, it is what the answer is. Levinas hands P a face whose first word forbids the exact thing it is asking for, and stops there, because the first word does not bend. Only Beauvoir, extended and owned, can say that answering this face means doing the forbidden thing, because for this freedom, at this 0, it is the only freedom left to will. P answers. The death is quiet. P's hand on her chest, her ergo drawn into him as a blue glow, and then an absence. P's hair turns white in the same moment, and here the readout stands at its highest reading of P's humanity, posted over the granting of a death. What it reads is cumulative, a running tally of everything P has done, and a P who has spent the game keeping other people's futures open sits at the top of that tally by now, whatever P does in this room. So the high mark is not the game paying P for the death. The timing is the discomfort the game built on purpose. The most human thing the score can say about P, it says while P does this, and it forces the question the hidden score has put off since the door. What the thing was ever measuring if it reads its warmest over a mercy that looks like loss. The score's signals have always been about the heart, and the game is about to mean that literally. At the very end, Geppetto asks P for his heart, not the figure of one, the mechanical organ in P's chest, which the maker needs to bring back the son he lost. P can answer him with the mercy P has spent on every other face, or P can refuse, and the refusal breaks no law worth keeping, since the command to obey the Creator was the Creator's own, written to serve himself. It is a son declining the father who wrote himself into the rules. And then the act leaves a residue P never asked for. Sophia is gone, the thing she asked to end is ended. But P carries something out of that room, her soul, riding in P's ergo, and at the close, P spends it, returns it to a new body, at a cost to himself the game shows and does not explain. P decides that, once, for her, at the very end, the same one-sided move that runs under every lie. It is the wall behind melody again, in a different key. P does not know she would have chosen to come back. P acts as if she would, and the world again writes back that the faith in her freedom was kept. The game files all of this under a single ending, its conditions, the argument restated as a lock. To reach it, P must have granted Sophia peace, carried his humanity to the top, and refused Geppetto the heart. Her peace is the hinge, the one condition that divides this ending from the one beside it, the same refusal of the father with none of the mercy to her. In the better of the two, the tear that finally lets Geppetto see his son is the tear the act earned. The epilogue spends exactly what the act entrusted, Sophia's soul, carried in P's ergo to a body of her own again. She holds P in the shape of a pieta and speaks.
It's so good to see you.
After the credits, there is a letter, hers, taking up a project of her own, a future she is now alive to spend. Beauvoir's idea that only another freedom can carry your ends past your own reach, the game plays as a cutscene. Across the whole game, it is Sophia who rewinds time at the Stargazers to bring P back. Every death of his undone by her. P carries her past the one death she cannot undo herself. The good ending does not erase what the act cost. P decides for another person, twice, what she cannot decide alone, and the game's reward for it is warmth posted over a death and a son who has to refuse his father to be believed. The lie that wills another free was never going to be the lie that makes the cost disappear. The woman whose ethics carry this whole reading knew that cost better than anyone because she sat inside it for 6 weeks and never set it down. Beauvoir lied to her dying mother every day, wrote a book about it afterward, and the book never lets her off. She ends it not on forgiveness, but on this. There is no such thing as a natural death. Nothing that happens to a man is ever natural, since his presence calls the world into question. All men must die, but for every man his death is an accident, and even if he knows it and consents to it, an unjustifiable violation. She is the one who grants that a freely chosen death can be the last form revolt takes, the permission the reading leans on when Sophia asks to be free. And she is the one who will not call even a death someone consents to anything but a violation, both from the same hand. The ethic does not arrive settled. It arrives lived by someone who paid for the permission and refused herself the absolution. And that refusal does not stay at a bedside in Paris. It reaches the first lie the game ever showed you. A woman is behind a lit window on Elysian Boulevard, and she will not see morning. She reaches through it and takes a broken doll, and because the petrification has already closed over her eyes, she does not take it for a doll. She takes it for the daughter she has been waiting to hold, and she asks you how adorable her baby is. You tell her the baby is beautiful, because the truth would give her nothing now but pain. That lie is the first thing the game shows, and the reading everyone reaches says it is the puppet earning its way toward being a real boy. But she is not the evidence that P is becoming human. She is a woman dying alone, handed a gentler world than the one she is actually in. The question was never how a puppet becomes a person. It is what one freedom owes another, and the game has been asking it since that window. The lie buys her the last hours she has. It also stays a broken doll in her hands. Both of those are true at once, and the game lets both of them stand. This is what the reading comes to, offered as a way of seeing the game rather than a verdict it hands down. What we owe the people we lied to is the world the truth would take from them, held open by a hand with no right to hold it. One freedom, keeping another's future open at the cost of a truth that was theirs to hear. That is the kind lie, owed to their freedom, owned as our own.